日のメッツのフィリーズとの第1戦、なんとこのタイミングでロースター入りした千賀投手が先発するようです。ロースター入りしたことも驚きですが、まさか第1戦の先発になるとは。この意思決定に至った経緯や情報の番組を一緒に見ていきましょう。監督インタビューと現地番組1本を翻訳してお届けいたします。このチャンネルでは日本人メジャーリーガーに関する現地放送局の様子を翻訳してお届けしておりますので、お見逃しのないように、今のうちにチャンネル登録をお願いいたします。
Who's starting for you tomorrow?
Kodai Senga. Kodai Senga is going tomorrow.
And what do you expect he'll be able to give you?
We'll see. We're going to let it play out. He's been in Florida throwing, facing hitters. We have a plan, but we're going to go out there and watch him closely and go from there. But he's ready to go, and that's where we're going with him on game one.
And how does he feel about that?
Great. He's excited. Said right away, when we talked to him, that he was ready to go. If anybody knows himself better than anybody, it's Kodai Senga. We've been through it the whole year with him. The times that he goes out there and face hitters or throws a lot of bullpens and he's not feeling right, he's always letting us know that. And that wasn't the case in this situation. He was the one that approached us, and he wanted to know what we were thinking in case, we were here in the division series or potential NLCS. And we just wanted to hear what he had to say and offer, and he was pretty honest with us. And it was an easier decision because of what we've been through with him the whole year. The only time he pitched, he was facing a really good lineup on the Braves. And this is no joke right here when he's facing the Phillies, game one of the division series, after he only threw four. I don't know how many he ended up throwing that day when he went down. So, but again, not watching him the whole year and then going out there and facing that Braves lineup was pretty impressive. So that's why we feel that when he's approaching us, again, that's how it went down the last time. So we'll see how it goes. And again, we'll be ready to adjust if we need to.
Meantime, Kodai Senga named the starter for Game 1. Only pitched 5 1/3 innings this season. What went into that decision for Carlos Mendoza?
Yeah, this was a surprise to me, and I think this was a surprise to a lot of people, Adnan. This is a guy who has only pitched 5 and change innings this year. As recently as early this week, talking to Carlos Mendoza, he almost laughs a little when you ask about Kodai Senga because he hasn't been around, he hasn't been available, he's been very deliberate in that rehab process, and he wants to make sure he checks every box. But the reason why the Mets were comfortable doing this is because this wasn't a situation where Mendoza, David Stearns went to Kodai Senga and said, hey, are you good to pitch? This was a situation where Kodai Senga called them and said, I want to pitch, I feel good, I'm ready. And that's what gave the Mets the confidence, not just to put Kodai Senga on their playoff roster, on their NLDS roster, but to slot him in one for the Game 1 start, which is obviously a very big assignment for anyone, let alone someone who hasn't pitched in a major league game in 2.5 months.
Let's see how that goes for it. Get going. The Mets have been road warriors right now, Anthony. They haven't been home since September 22nd. How does the rest of the staff line up for Game 1 and beyond for this Mets team?
Well, we don't know how long Kodai Senga is going to go. I suspect it's not going to be longer than 2 innings. He's not really stretched out as a starter right now. It could be just 1 inning or even a few batters for Kodai Senga. But the Mets are in pretty good shape. In addition to having today's rest for all of their regular bullpen members, they have David Peterson, who only threw 8 pitches, closing out Game 3 of the Wild Card Series. He could give them a heavy workload. As could Tyler McGill, who was not on the Wild Card Series roster. He last pitched in Atlanta in that doubleheader on Monday. He's fully rested. He's willing to give the Mets a full starter's workload as well. So it's not a matter of how many innings the Mets can get out of their bullpen. They have more than enough that they need for Game 1 against the Phillies. It's just who pitches when, how long can Senga go, what do the Mets do once he's out of the game. The good news also for the Mets, they have a fully rested Luis Severino ready to go for Game 2.
And last thought for you, Anthony, because you're talking about the bullpen plans, what Carlos Mendoza can do. How about the fact he went to Diaz in the 7th? Critical move in hindsight.
Yeah, absolutely. And the game looked like it was getting away from the Mets right there. They brought in Edwin Diaz, who, by the way, was shaky there in the 7th inning, but he managed to shut the door and then managed to pitch the 8th inning, a perfect 8th inning as well. And what's funny about that, Adnan, is after the 8th inning, Edwin Diaz, who had just thrown almost 40 pitches, went to Carlos Mendoza in the dugout and said, I want the 9th as well. Mendoza said, no, we're good. They went to David Peterson instead, and he did a great job closing that one out. But Diaz, the Mets have been so careful with him all season. They have gotten heavy with his his usage over the past week, and I expect that's going to continue throughout the rest of October.
That's a great tidbit. Thanks for sharing. I was thinking, can Diaz go 3? Maybe at some point in this postseason. Anthony DiComo, you look great for a guy who hasn't slept in weeks. Good stuff. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
まさかの志願登板だったとは驚きですね。そして、その志願を受け入れる意思決定をした監督、フロント陣、チームメイトも正直すごいと思いました。ソフトバンク時代から重要な局面でつい怪我をしがちなイメージの千賀選手ですが、今年は逆にポストシーズンに合わせるという驚きの調整っぷりですね。あとは千賀選手がこの決定をした全ての人、そして日本中、世界中のファンに千賀選手の力を見せつけるだけです。お化けフォークがうなるのか、ノーヒットノーランでもやっちゃいますか。明日はテレビが2台は必要です。今からやってる電気屋さんあるかな。ドキドキして夜しか眠れませんが、明日を楽しみに今日はみんなで早く寝ましょう。おやすみなさい。